Frieza's plans for galactic conquest are going to have to wait, because in this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super, Frieza battles against the fastest purple jackrabbit from Universe 11. And is it true that Dragon Ball Super is going to end after the Tournament of Power? This week's episode was really exciting, guys. Basically, the battles between Universe 7 and 11 are truly heating up, and we even had a major loss for Universe 7 in this episode. However, there is a shadow looming over the Dragon Ball Super anime series right now, and that's the unfortunate news that apparently it's going to go on an extended hiatus after the Tournament of Power, which means we basically got about a month and a half worth of material to get through, which is very unfortunate. I really wanted a lot more from the end of this arc right here, and this episode right here made it very clear that we are almost at the very end, because two fighters lose in this episode. I will say, however, that this was a really great episode. Dispo versus Frieza was definitely one of my favorite things about the Tournament of Power. Stylistically speaking, I thought this episode looked really cool. It did have some execution problems and reused animation way too much, but it ended with such a crazy surprise that left me kind of flabbergasted. I cannot believe that Gohan has been knocked out of the Tournament of Power. Maybe I was expecting a lot more from his character, but man, I was just sort of waiting for that, like, one episode where you're gonna be like, yeah, that was the Gohan episode of the Tournament of Power. And I guess you could say this is the one, or when he fought against the two Namekians with Piccolo, but I wanted him to have, like, his very own epic one-on-one battle. And originally I was envisioning Gohan actually being the one who was going to be fighting against Toppo. But really, my expectations are being kicked right out the window right here. And for that, I do applaud the series. They are taking some really big risks here. I honestly thought that Android 17 was probably going to be the next one on the chopping block, just due to the fact that when you really stack him against the other characters of the series, while he's really awesome, in the grand scheme of things, he's not as important. Maybe that's really just my opinion on that. I just like the other characters a little bit more than Android 17, but I am really excited to see what he's going to be doing against Toppo in the next episode. So let's just talk about all the major highlights of this episode. Here's your spoiler warning for the review. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right in. Vegeta and Goku continue to fight against Jiren, and it's pretty much just sort of a retread of last week's episode. However, there is a great moment where they do manage to push him back, and Jiren just comes back after exploding with this massive blinding light. It looks like a giant volcano which is exploding up into the sky. It's really great, and he continues to basically just be really pompous about it. He might as well just wipe off his sleeves, Luke Skywalker style. Right after that, though, we get to the real meat of this episode, which is Frieza versus Dispo, which I really loved because it was just such a distinctive fight and so unique for the series. Like I said in some of my previous reviews, we've only ever seen Frieza fight against the same people over and over. To see him fight against this weirdly designed anthropomorphic purple rabbit who moves at hyper speeds is really fun, and the dynamic between the two characters is great because Frieza is such a crazy villain and Dispo is essentially a friggin' Power Ranger. So it truly is good versus evil here, and there's some fantastic moments from both of the characters. Frieza, for the most part, does dominate the battle, but there are a few moments where Dispo manages to be a little quicker and even more powerful than Frieza, even overcoming some of his most powerful forms when he's Golden Frieza, which is a really big accomplishment for the character. I was hoping he would get a more, like, bigger, proper transformation in line with a lot of the other characters in the series. Basically, he just gets a purple aura that goes around him, which makes him a little faster, but for the most part, Frieza is able to keep up with him. But there are some moments, though, where Frieza genuinely gets beaten down that's really satisfying, I have to say. Seeing another character do it, one from another universe, and a dude who looks just like Dispo, it's just really surreal and strange and awesome in the best ways possible. I also like that Frieza did utilize his tail in battle. I always think that's really fun to see. He was able to sneak up on him and grab him with the tail and flip him around. I love moments like that, but we really didn't get to see anything new from Frieza. But when Gohan gets involved with the battle right as Frieza is about to just get destroyed, that's when things get really interesting, because now we have what is probably one of the most unlikely team-ups from the entire series. Gohan and Frieza fighting against Dispo. It's amazing to see this actually happen. it's still weird seeing Frieza kind of be buddy-buddy with people and team up next to them, getting in a fighting pose, getting ready to help out. It almost feels wrong, like it's something that actually should not happen, but it's really, really fun to see. And they come up with this great strategy where they try to basically narrow Dispo's field of movement. So they get him in this really small area, and then Frieza gets behind some rocks and starts finger blasting the air, which sends these lasers just exploding into the ground all over the place. And both Dispo and Gohan are trapped in here, basically reducing all of Dispo's movements and allowing Gohan to just get in there with some lefts, some rights, some kicks to the face while he's continuously slamming into the ki blasts. It's just epic. But eventually Frieza does run out of energy and Dispo manages to hit the crap out of Gohan, but then Gohan decides to pull a classic move from the Dragon Ball Z handbook. He does exactly what Goku did against Raditz. He just grabs on to freaking Dispo and allows Frieza to just blow him away, sending both of them over the edge and making them the two losers of this episode. That's right, Dispo loses, Gohan loses. I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Now it's really kind of one-sided when you think about it. It's 4-on-2. How are Toppo and Jiren going to be able to take these four super strong characters? So what's the rundown on this episode of Dragon Ball Super? Let me be honest, I'm slightly disappointed by this episode. I wanted to see Gohan go a little further, especially with how much they were building him up in this arc, being the leader of Universe 7, mastering his inner abilities, his mystic abilities, his ultimate abilities, whatever you want to call them. I wanted to see more of that in action. And it never really got there. I just wanted that really big epic moment like Gohan had when he was fighting against Perfect Cell, just in a modern time when he's like an adult. Just, I want more from Gohan. It's kind of a shame. As a fan of that character, like I said, I'm disappointed. However, for them to do something like that and to take a risk and include all these characters here, it's great. It's also really awesome that Goku is teamed up with nothing but former villains at this point. Of course, Vegeta at this point has fully reformed. Seeing like Vegeta, 17, and Frieza all team up with Goku is something that I never thought would possibly happen when I was starting to watch Dragon Ball Z when I was a young kid back in the Toonami days. And seeing it happen now is just crazy. But this episode right here, it wasn't perfect in my opinion. There were some things that I really loved. The display of Dispo's power and his speed was great. He's a really unique fighter, and seeing him get the better of Frieza is without a doubt, I think, one of the highlights of this episode. He even has some somewhat unique techniques and variations of things we've seen in the series. He's able to create key rings and wrap people up and create explosions, and aside from that, he's basically just really freaking fast. But really, that's all there is to Dispo, which is kind of unfortunate. But still, I'd like to see him as a DLC character in Dragon Ball FighterZ, along with both Toppan and Jiren. That way we could have them all team up in the 3-on-3 matches, but that's a discussion for another day. That game comes out in a week, by the way, and I am freaking hyped for it. Cannot wait for that one. But the other thing that I had a problem with this episode is, man, there was a lot of reused animation. And I know that's like not anything that's strange to Dragon Ball. They do it all the freaking time. But they could have changed it up a little bit. There were just a few moments where I kept seeing the same thing over and over and over and blah, 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 blah. I felt like there could have been a lot more that could have been done with this episode. Now, that being said, I'm being incredibly negative right now, but this was a really great episode. It was still really fun to watch, and it was still just so intense. And like I said, it's more of the scenario, seeing it happen, that's great. Of Frieza and Gohan teaming up, something I never thought that I would possibly see. I really can't wait to see what's going to happen, though, in the finale of the series, considering we're getting so dang close to it. With 17 going up against Toppo, or him and Frieza going to team up together in the next episode, while Vegeta and Goku go up against Jiren. Are there going to be other twists and turns and surprises? Is Zeno going to get a new God pad so that he can see how fast people are going? We'll just have to wait and see. Now, aside from that, I liked this episode. It had some problems with the reused animation, but as a hardcore fan of the series, I loved it. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. But I have to address the elephant in the room. Apparently, Dragon Ball Super is ending after the Tournament of Power arc. There's a big article that just came out, and people are still debating whether it says it's ending or if it's going on hiatus. What I do know is, even though that the series might be going on an extended hiatus for a while, this is not the end of Dragon Ball by any stretch of the means. This series is way too popular. It's making so much money just through the merchandise. The ratings are really crazy. This new Dragon Ball fighting game that's coming out is going to utilize a lot of the assets from it. Dragon Ball Mania is still alive. There's even a brand new movie coming out in December, and they're probably going to be taking their best people and focusing on that film. What that film is going to be and how it ties into Dragon Ball Super, though, is what I'm most interested in seeing. If they're going to do what they did before, where they make a movie and then they just reanimate that movie in a slightly different way in the anime version, will this be just a non-canon side story? Will it actually tie into everything? And when is Dragon Ball Super coming back? That's the one thing I mostly want to know. I want reassurance that it is going to return in some form. Are they going to allow the manga to create the stories and then start adapting from them? Or do they just want to allow the manga to actually catch up to where it is in the story right now? It's really hard to say. Maybe they'll come back with an anime series which has a completely different title. We could be looking at Dragon Ball Ultra, Dragon Ball Mega, Dragon Ball Giga. I don't know. They could give it a lot of crazy different names. Dragon Ball Super Duper. All I know is it's truly not going to be going anywhere. It's going to come back, I'm sure. But I have to admit, I'm disappointed because I'm like at the true height of my fandom for Dragon Ball right now. Like, I can't get enough of it, and I wait for it every single week. It's like my favorite show of the week. It's not even the best anime that airs, but watching Dragon Ball just gives me that old school Toonami feeling that's really hard to recapture in a lot of other shows, and it really does feel like the old days, and I just look forward to it every week. That being said, this episode right here was fantastic. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, and you guys should definitely check it out. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode. What did you think of the battles against Dispo, Gohan and Dispo losing? What do you think is actually going to happen with the final 4 fighters from Universe 7? What about Toppo? What about his transformation? Tell me everything you want to see from the end of Dragon Ball Super, and do you really think the series is going to be done after this? Is there going to be a crazy twist? Maybe the twist is going to be that Universe 11 actually wins, and right as Universe 7 is about to be destroyed, the series ends, ending us on the biggest cliffhanger in anime history. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to hear all your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more Dragon Ball Super reviews, as well as a ton of other reviews on this season's anime shows. Make sure to like the video and share it with your friends. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay down there, baby.